I don't know why I made this ranking video. Everyone knows that the best character is the bear. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm the Monio, the interdimensional demon who talks about Vox Machina the most on YouTube, and you're on my channel. I'll try to use some objective criteria for this ranking, which will be the character's charisma, their story, and their development throughout the series. I believe that many people will disagree with the first place, but if that's your case, I ask that you comment on which character deserved to be in first place and why. Remember that this video will not consider the content of the Critical Hole campaigns, and I will also not consider the comics, only the Prime Video series, okay? And let's get to the list. In 7th place, we have Vax, the character who perhaps comes closest to being the leader of the group, very charismatic and has a personality that matches the archetype of the character who learned to be a bit of a rogue in order to survive, but who has a good heart, and just like his sister, he shares the trauma of having lost his mother in an incident that apparently involved dragons. Vax gained very cool and stylish abilities when he became the chosen one of the Raven Queen, in which he gained magical abilities of speed and flight, and this was a very interesting arc, in which he had to understand what this meant and the burden he would need to carry from that moment on, and this was the character's turning point in the 2nd season. Because of this connection with the Raven Queen, Vax is able to have insights into the connections between individuals' lives until their deaths, and he is also able to have visions of the future, not only about his own destiny, but also about the destiny of his friends, and I really like the fact that the series script uses this as a resource to direct the story, relating the theme of destiny to the characters. And in the 3rd season, Vax faces the pressure of knowing a terrible destiny involving his friends, and this parallels his relationship with Keyleth, in which he at the same time has to deal with the fact that he is trying to change destiny and to what extent his actions determine whether this destiny becomes reality. All this narrative development is very cool and very interesting, and Vax is only in last place on the list because he still doesn't have as much charisma or as interesting or striking a personality as the other characters. In 6th place, we have Keyleth, and it is with great sadness that I put her in this position on the list. I really like her, but because she is one of the characters who had the least opportunity to develop throughout the series, she is probably the character who has the best looks in the series, which perfectly matches her connection with nature. She also has one of the coolest powers, which is the ability to transform into various animals. This power alone gives her almost infinite possibilities of what she can do in certain situations and how she can face her enemies. In addition to her magic, which is always visually very interesting and powerful, I feel that all of her magical abilities and even her power of transformation are not as well used as they could be, and often in battles and action scenes, she is overshadowed by other characters. Another reason for her position in the ranking is the way she interacts with others. She still has a very passive personality and is the least confident of the group, consequently she becomes one of the least interesting in terms of personality. The things that were addressed about her origins and past in the 2nd season show that she still has a lot of potential to be explored, and in the 3rd season she is in a character arc that focuses on showing her value to the group, since according to her, the others do not consider her their opinion. So it makes sense that she still does not have as interesting a personality as the others, since she is still on the journey to overcome her fears and insecurities, and in this process she will probably need to understand her value and value herself as a member of the group. I feel that the character's journey to show her potential is being better explored in the 3rd season, along with her relationship with Vax. Keyleth reminds me a bit of Sophie, the protagonist of the film Moving Castle, a very good character, but who still needs to find her place in the world and discover who she is. In 5th place, we have Scanlan, one of the most fun characters in the series. He follows the stereotype of a womanizing and flirtatious character, who is too superficial in his relationships, and because of that he cannot achieve true happiness and value what really matters, but in the end he is a nice guy. Scanlan is on a really cool personal journey to become a person of value and win back his daughter, and this arc is really developed, especially in the 3rd season, where he feels like he's failing as a father and as a member of the team. The fact that he has to deal with unexpected fatherhood is really interesting for the kind of development he's having, where he has to deal with emotional responsibility and the regret of being absent, things that are completely opposite to the life he usually lives. One thing worth highlighting are his songs, which are always really good, really fun, and are sometimes used in the narrative as a way to add personality to what's happening, which results in really good musical scenes, like introductions and background music to complement what's happening. Scanlan is a character who is made to be liked, and overall this works very well, but I find the character's construction and personality a bit too cliché within this archetype, along with the constant need to be a comic relief for the team most of the time, which is why he is not higher on the list. In fourth place, we have Vex'ahlia, a character who did not captivate me at first, but over time she developed and became one of the highlights of the series, with a courageous and determined personality, and a very funny acid humor. Because she is an archer, technically she should be the most limited character of the group in terms of combat ability, but we often see her use these abilities in unusual and creative ways, especially after she gained the magic bow, which is one of the vestiges, and has a much greater variety of attacks and uses. Vex'ahlia shares the same trauma as her brother, but she was much more developed throughout the series, as she carries much deeper scars from these traumas, both in relation to the trauma of losing her mother and the troubled relationship she has with her father. She has one of the deepest conflicts in my opinion, which is that she thinks that her love is destructive, and that everyone she loves will eventually die because of her, and this is reflected in her relationship with Percival, which does not progress because of her fear of having a relationship with him. Vex'ahlia also goes through another mourning arc in the third season, which is one of the saddest in my opinion, in which she has to deal with the loss of someone she loves again, and feeling guilty for not loving that person back the way she should, making her question whether all her fears were not true, about the fate of the people she loves. Vex'ahlia is an excellent character, and she's only not higher on the list because I consider the first three to be even better at what they set out to do. In third place, we have Percival, the most stylish character in the series in my opinion, and he has a very fun personality, sometimes playing the stereotype of a clumsy nerd, a very stylish nerd, but still a nerd, and because of that he consequently makes the archetype of the smart guy in the group. One thing that I find very interesting in terms of contrast is the way Percival uses technology in this world where magic prevails, and this discussion about technology versus magic is present in the third season, being the motivation of one of the villains, and drawing a parallel on how Percival's intelligence, and his creative capacity, have the potential to change the balance of power in that world, with people who cannot defend themselves from magic having access to military technology. Percival is probably the character who has had the most screen time, since the entire first season is focused on him and his revenge arc against those who destroyed his family. Although this was developed very well in the first season, his revenge arc returns in the third season, putting the character's development to the test. I really like Percival's relationship with Vex'ahlia. For me, they are the best couple in the series. The fact that Percival is in love with Vex'ahlia shows how much the character has developed and how he was able to leave his revenge behind. His ending in the third season shows that he was probably the only character who was able to fully conclude his arc during the series. I really like Percival and I hope he's present in a possible fourth season of the series. In second place, we have Grog, the most fun and charismatic character in the series, and I don't think there's much to say, it's Grog. He's the warrior of the group, and he's the stereotype of a physically strong character who isn't smart, but who manages to perfectly balance action and humor, with excellent scenes in both aspects, and despite this stereotype being quite cliché, I think few works manage to create a truly cool character, and a good example of this is Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, who despite being in good movies and having cool moments, didn't manage to reach his potential either as a destroyer or as a funny character. In the second season, Grog had a good development, showing his story and making him face his past head-on, and his character arc in which he needs to learn not to necessarily depend on his strength to win battles, and we can't forget to mention his beard, which gave the character even more charm, making him look more like Kratos from God of War. I believe that many will choose Grog as their favorite character, and he is sensational in my opinion. First, we have Pike. She is probably the character who brings together the best qualities of the others in the group. She is very charismatic, has an unlikely personality considering that she is a cleric. She is very funny and manages to balance serious scenes with emotional weight and fun humorous scenes very well, and she is probably the only character who had a character arc that evolved over time and became more complex, to the point that she herself began to question what she was previously looking for. In the first season we have the arc of Pike losing her connection with her goddess Everlight, and assuming that this is due to her lifestyle, and then discovering that her goddess never abandoned her, but that Pike herself had cut the connection, because she was attached to what people thought was right or wrong, and then she discovers that the goddess never abandoned her, and that she would be accepted by Everlight regardless of the lifestyle she wanted to live, and this is not only surprising. From a narrative point of view, but it is also an interesting criticism of current religions, in which people judge you in a punitive way, thinking they are speaking for God. If in the first season we had an arc of Pike believing in her goddess, in the third we have another very interesting development, in which Pike begins to question some of Everlight's attitudes at times when she goes to ask for help, and this is a huge conflict for the character, because at the same time that she wants to believe in her goddess, she has doubts about everything she believed in the most and that she thought was right. This is an approach that I had never seen in any other cleric character, something truly unique in the character, and this ambiguity makes her an extremely interesting character. And I think you all agree that the scene of Pike arriving in Whitestone is one of the best in the series, absolute cinema. So, did you like my ranking? Do you agree with me? Which character would you put in first place? Leave it in the comments, and if you liked the video, subscribe to follow the next content. Until next time my people, demonic hugs.